Hi, I'm Kit Bowen.
And my name is Ryan T. Husk, and this is the Creation Entertainment Podcast. First up on today's show is part 2 of Adam Malin's interview with the one, the only, director, actor, superstar, Jonathan Frakes.
And we had part 1 on our last episode, so definitely check that out as well. And on the Pop Culture Cinema Squad, we're going to do part 2 of the Disney Plus Andor series, where we discuss the latter half of season 2. And again, watch part 1 on our podcast before, and just buckle up, buddies, because it's a deep dive into the show, and it's so good.
People are going wild for Andor. It's incredible. That's it, everybody. As Kit said, buckle up. It's going to be a zany ride. Enjoy today's episode of the Creation Entertainment Podcast.
Folks, I'm Adam Malin, and today we present part 2 of my in-depth interview with Jonathan Frakes, the multi-talented actor, director, producer, and trombone player who has collaborated on multiple iterations of Star Trek, as well as a long line of television and film projects, notably a decades-long continuing collaboration with Electric Entertainment's wunderkind, Dean Devlin. Recently, Jonathan reprised his role as Commander Will Riker for Star Trek Picard with showrunner Terry Matalas, and he reflects on the Next Generation's last hurrah, as well as its lasting legacy, as well as his legendary partnership with Sir Patrick Stewart, his equally legendary marriage to Jeannie Francis, and some of the projects and charities he's currently affiliated with. We've hosted Jonathan at creation events for almost 40 years, and it's a pleasure and honor to welcome back our good friend who is a continuing creative engine in Hollywood. Is the essence of directing more technical production issues, or is it about the performances of the actors? Is it the camera setups? Is there a way to qualify what the essence of good directing is?
I think people approach it differently.
Yeah.
My approach has always been to find the heart, meaning what's happening in the relationship. And on Star Trek, that was essential anyway.
Yeah.
And to search for any taste, soupçon of levity. So those two elements is what I'm always searching for. I mean, and also we were not encouraged to be wild with the camera the way we are now. And we were not encouraged to be massively cinematic, nor did we have the time or money. So if you were, and you started the interview by saying this, if it ain't on the page, it ain't on the stage. So if you had a good script, so this cuts to when I was finally given an episode, which was in the 3rd season. So I had shadowed for 2.5 seasons.
Yeah.
I was given Renee Echevarria's spec script, which was called The Offspring, which is a story of Data building his daughter.
Yeah, right.
So wow. It was a Data episode, and as we both, I mean, Data's my favorite character, and Brent is a genius. So right. I had Brent. The whole company knew that I was preparing to direct. Remember, the sound department gave me a megaphone, like an old 50s megaphone, and the company had signed it. It was such a, and the actors we were so crazy by then that they just took the piss out of me, as they all did, and. So it was but it was the luck of the draw, because we did 26 episodes a year, and they obviously are not all home runs. Offspring happened to be a home run, and
yeah, it was a great episode.
Hallie Todd, who played, she comes to the cons too, and she always comes over to say hello. She said to me, "What should I do?" And I said, "Watch Brent. He created you. He's an android. Watch how he moves." And she did, and she created that character based entirely on mimicking how Brent had created Data. So it made my job.
It was amazing, but to be a great director, there has to be a balance between your own ego and your own vision and the spirit of collaboration. You want to collaborate as much as possible, but at the end of the day, you do have to enforce your own creative vision of what you want.
Well, at the end of the day, you have to make your day. And the responsibility of a director on episodic television is to make, in my my opinion, it not only to make today, but to make the best version of that show. And on our show, when Rick was running it, there was no cutting out of moving shots. There was very little wild, fishing around and following the puck, as they say. It was very traditional. There was master, there was coverage, and there was close-ups and some walk and talks in the hallway, but it was very, very traditional.
Pretty businesslike. Now, on the other hand, you were gifted two incredible film directing jobs on two next generation movies. How did this start with? I mean, Star Trek fans all consider First Contact to be, if not the best Star Trek film, one or two or three best Star Trek films.
Where are you on that? Still Wrath of Khan first?
I think Nick Meyer is amazing, but I think your accomplishment on First Contact is incredible. That movie is an amazing film. Ron and Brannon, it was, like we say, the script was incredible. It's an amazing movie.
So is JJ's first movie, by the way.
Of course.
But what happened on First Contact was it was Star Trek 8. To be candid. And Zemeckis and Spielberg were not going to be directing this movie. So the people who were being considered and who had thrown their hats in the ring were directors who were interested, who were genre directors or sci-fi directors, and Sherry Lansing was running the studio at the time.
Who were some of the other directors?
I don't know.
Oh yeah, okay.
I don't know.
Yeah,
I'm sure that there were other people from our group, but I don't know who the film directors were that were being considered. But allegedly, according to Rick, Sherry Lansing said, I love this franchise, obviously. Star Trek has been great for this studio. I don't really understand how it runs. You're running it. It's been very successful. I'll let you pick the director. So I threw my hat in the ring, obviously. And I think at this point in his contract, Patrick had director approval. So I remember having lunch with Patrick. He said, you know why we're here? I said, no. He said, because I get to approve the director, and Rick wants you to direct. So we laughed, and it was great. And then one thing led to another, and I guess the powers that be approved. But what happened was, as you mentioned, Brannon wrote what was essentially a bulletproof script. It was a fabulous script.
Fabulous script.
And as I've thought about it for many years, what also worked kismet was that the guest cast of Jamie Cromwell, who played Cochrane, my godmother Alfre Woodard, and the incredible the incredible Alice Krieger, who played the Borg Queen.
Amazing.
Who were the three guest stars. They fit in with us, with our family, so well and so easily, both in their ethics, their work ethics, their appreciation, their professionalism, their sense of fun, everything about them felt like they were with us. And I had the wonderful Matt Leonetti, who has done a lot of great movies. So I had a real big movie cinematographer to help me through it. And other than that, it was still, Jerry Fleck was my first, and Blackman was doing the costumes, and Herman did the sets, and Rick was producing. So there was a familiarity of Ron and Brannon and all of my friends in the cast. So it was the best of times.
It was the perfect setup.
Yep. And it was really mine to screw up, and luckily it came out. And then it was a hit. I mean, it made money. It was a dream come true.
Was this your first film?
Absolutely. It was my first and most successful film. And then there were three others.
Incredible.
And then I know you'll get to it, but then I went to Thunderbirds and I went to Movie Jail, and now I'm back in television and quite grateful for it.
And just as a side note, I counted at least 6 different Star Trek series that you have made either a voice or a physical appearance on. So that's got to be some kind of a record too.
I think maybe Jeff Combs is the record, though, doesn't he?
He might beat you, but certainly for a lead character, I think you hold the record.
Okay.
And without getting into the names of all that. Okay. I know you did Clock Stoppers in 2002. Don't really have time to touch on that too much, but I know you.
That was with Tim. That was the one with Tim Surstedt, who was my dad's student.
But we've had some words about Thunderbirds, and just to set this up for our viewers, for those that don't know, Thunderbirds was an incredible British TV series by the great Jerry Anderson, who pioneered a 60s puppet filming technique called supermarionation. And the guys that did South Park did a movie in the Jerry Anderson supermarionation style called Team America, which was pretty hysterical. For me, it was great to see the film, the concept be recreated. I thought it was a great movie. I mean, I don't understand why it's such a disappointment to you, other than that it wasn't a commercial success.
Oh, it wasn't a disappointment to me. It was a disappointment to Universal
I
and
mean,
to the
I
fans.
think creatively it was a success.
Yeah, oh, yeah, I agree. Well, it had Sir Ben Kingsley was in it. Bill Paxton was in it. The all the ships were spectacular. I mean, there were things about it that were wonderful.
Yeah.
And there were a couple of, and by ironically, do you know who directed The Brutalist, which almost won an Academy Award?
Who?
Brady Corbet, who was the star of Thunderbirds, the youngest
Wow.
of
Wow.
the kids.
The Brutalist won this year, right?
It didn't win for director, but it won. I don't know. No, Nora won Best Film, but he
Yeah.
was, he was Academy
Nominated.
Award nominated
Yeah.
director, and he started. Of course, he'd been in 13 and other things like that, but it was a spectacular. Jeannie quit her job for a while. We moved to London. The kids started school there. It was a life-changing experience to make it. It was a big deal. So
Well,
when it took a shit at the box office, it was a real, because I'd been so fortunate for my whole career that things had always gone well and come out well. So it was eye-opening and continues to be. You know, you know who bailed me out after the thing when the movie failed. Obviously, we went off the dole as expats in London. Had to move out of the apartment, move back to this place in Maine because our house was rented. And I'm
yes.
sitting around licking my wounds, and who calls me to offer me a job? Dean Devlin.
Your collaboration with Dean Devlin is the stuff of legends. We're going to get to that. I just wanted, though, to say my piece that, yeah, I'm so sorry that Thunderbirds wasn't a success.
And also, before we move on from Thunderbirds,
Yeah.
Jerry Anderson didn't want us to make that movie. You know that probably.
Why?
Well, I don't
Why?
know. I went over with a olive branch with my producer and said, I've been assigned to this movie, and
Sanity.
he was on the same lot. He was on Pinewood where we were shooting, and
Yeah.
he
Yeah.
wanted no part of a live action Thunderbirds. So
Well,
it was not made with his approval. It was made with his disapproval,
so
which might have
crazy.
been part of it.
I didn't think Jerry was still active at that point.
Yeah, I'd met him, and
That's stupid.
he was not happy with us.
Okay. Well, anyway, from one fan's point of view, I greatly enjoyed the film. I thought it paid wonderful homage to the supermarination Jerry Anderson legacy brought to modern production values. So anyway, sorry it didn't work out, but I'm still going to go on record as
We're
saying
here now.
I love the film. Yeah. Before we get on to your fabled relationship with Dean,
Right.
I just want to, as a side note, mention that you've done a bunch of voice acting work.
Hmm.
And has that been an enjoyable kind of a
I
side?
wish there was more. I did Gargoyles, which has been
Uh,
proved to be sort of live on.
Thanatos.
I'm not quite sure
Yeah.
why that show wasn't either rebooted, which has been rumored for decades. It
Yeah.
started, Marina and I were both cast as regulars in it, and it was made for Disney. And I remember they cast Dorn in a part, then they cast Brent, then they cast Kate Mulgrew, and at some point it looked like it was all of the Star Trek people were on, and Disney realized they were getting some kind of bump from the Star Trek casting, I
Right.
believe. But I'm always looking for any kind of voiceover gig is great because
Always nice to see you. You've been a whole bunch of stuff. There was that Futurama episode, which was so much fun. How did the Roswell gig come about? Because you were pretty involved with that show.
after the success of First Contact, they gave me an office at Paramount and what they call a development deal.
Yeah.
And someone brought me a series of children's books called Roswell High, which we took to Fox. And Fox bought it, and they assigned Jason Katims, the great Jason Katims of Parenthood and Friday Night Lights,
Yeah.
to write it. And I was kept on as an executive producer because I brought him the material. And then I was in it as myself, which was kind of weird. But the
Well,
contribution,
fun.
the greatest contribution I made to that show was in the second season. Jason was looking for someone else to help him, and I introduced him to Ron Moore, and Ron went on as a co-showrunner with Cadams.
Incredible. And you directed a bunch of episodes.
Yeah, I did.
Yeah. Good series.
You're. Let me just tell you something. I've done a lot of these. You are very well prepared. You're very good at this, Adam.
I appreciate it, but honestly, speaking on behalf of our audience, we're fascinated by your career. You've done a lot of great stuff, but I've done,
But you know how to move it along. You're good at this.
all right, thank
Take
you.
the compliment.
Thank We recently did the Electric Entertainment Convention
Oh,
for
in New Orleans.
Yes, it was.
Right.
And you, I'm not sure why you weren't there. I don't think it worked out for whatever reasons, but it was an amazing weekend. I finally got to really work close with Dean and Rachel and the Electric team. And Dean Devlin is a force of nature. This guy is
Absolutely.
an incredible talent. And you've had an amazing, amazing run with him, with Electric, in a lot
With
of
leverage and librarians. And
it's crazy. How did you first meet Dean? How did that first come
I
about?
acted on a show that he was the star of, or the guest star. And it was,
That's a long time ago.
yeah. And then we became friends. And then I pitched him some stuff when I had the deal at Paramount. And he and I both had we both liked this action adventure comedy genre, which is what Leverage is and Librarians is, and Star Trek at its best can be, and Orville is, and all. So he invited me to direct the second Librarians movie because he was busy on, I don't remember the name of what it was, but it was, both of us ended up being in Africa together. It was
This
fantastic.
was King Solomon's Mines.
King Solomon's Mines was that.
Yeah. Yeah.
So we went to Africa. This was with Noah Wiley.
Incredible. It was a great movie.
It was a wonderful movie. And then we did a third one in New Orleans that was also great. And then it became a series. And then,
And
Dean
the
has
third
been,
one was Judas Chalice.
yes, The Curse of the Judith Chalice.
Tell me about King Solomon's Mines. That was an amazing film.
We went to Kenya and we shot in the Maasai with the Maasai warriors. It was unbelievable. We went to Cape Town, which is a spectacular town. The
That's
filmmakers in Africa were so hardworking and so eager to have productions. And the rand with the dollar gave a dollar went a long way down there to make movies. And Dean, as you know, is a gambler and he likes a deal and he owns all of his own shows. He takes the hit.
Yeah.
All of his shows he owns himself. I think he's got 3 shows shooting in Serbia now. He never stops. He is a force of nature. And he's the most loyal producer I have ever worked with. He'll call you back. He'll bring you back. If you deliver for him, you stay on his list.
So coming out of the experience on the Librarian films, which are wonderful, was the Librarian series.
Right.
And I believe.
But we did Leverage first. I think Leverage we did for a few. You did Leverage in LA and then we moved out to Portland. He had a setup in Portland. He took advantage of the tax incentive up there in a way that
for 1 year, I think, of Leverage, right?
we did Leverage 1 year in LA and Leverage in Portland for another 4 or 5, and then we did Librarians for 4 or 5. So we were up in Portland for like 9 years, and I produced for one of those years. It was a great town.
If we're going to talk about Leverage, then you were working with the great John Rogers and Chris Down. Those guys are amazing showrunners. Tell me a little bit about working with those guys.
Rogers is a huge brain, the biggest brain in the room.
Unbelievable.
Fast talking, funny, thoughtful, problem solving. I remember being on the phone with him more than once. Walking down the street, somebody said, "There's a problem with this scene. Give Rogers a call." And this is at the end of the day. And between the set and going back to the hotel, Rogers had somehow fixed it. And an hour later, the pages for the next day were out. He's so efficient. He's so clever. He never says it can't be done. He understands. He became a director himself, and he understands the problems and challenges of production. Both he and Downey do. And a lot of writers don't get down in the weeds into the inside baseball of what it takes to make a show. And the ones who do, I think, have a great success. And Rogers has his own, what's his company called? Not Sticky Monkey, Bad Monkey, some kind of monkey. So I always take scripts that I'm interested in doing to John for his opinion or for his help, and he's he's an invaluable asset to all of us who work with him and for him.
And the best showrunners are, I think, fabulous writers as well.
Oh, they've got to be, and they've got to be efficient. They've got to understand what's important, what's not. They've got to be. They can't believe that their children are all Shakespeare, you know. So they have to
Um,
be free to cut shit.
I mean, you had a great run on Leverage. You did like, I don't know, at least a dozen episodes or,
Yeah,
yeah.
leverage was. We worked fast. That was a clever idea too. And leverage is back. I have a great leverage coming up. Not to plug myself, but I think in
Leverage
April.
Redemption.
Yeah, leverage redemption. I think drops in April.
Yeah, season 3,
Yeah,
which we're all looking forward to very much.
yeah. Season 8, but see, we call it season 3 because it's redemption. It's a different cast.
Yeah. But
Woo! Look at you flying through
well, I mean,
this.
Leverage is a show very close to my heart. I mean, I love that whole cast. Any reflections on some of the cast members?
Kane is the secret weapon.
Christian Kane is Dean's secret weapon.
Yeah, he's on all of his shows.
Yeah,
He's an uncannily good comedian. He does all of his own stunts.
unbelievable.
And Rebecca Romaine, who I'd worked with
Yeah,
on an ill-fated show called King and Maxwell, and then I did all of the librarians with her, and she was in Discovery briefly, and she's the star of Strange New Worlds, which is another show I work on. So I've got 3 series with her. I'm a huge fan
yeah.
of hers. Lindy Booth, she's on the librarians. Um, it that family runs together because Dave Connell, it was all again, it's Dean's company. You know, we had the same cinematographer, same operators, same. So those that 9 year period where we were working on leverage and leverage and leverage and then librarian because it was also Rogers on both shows. So it was it's quite a family that
Um,
Dean and Electric Entertainment
you
have
also took
created.
on the role of supervising producer. What exactly does a supervising producer? What is that person's responsibilities?
I think it's to keep an eye on the other directors. That was my job. I've been able to hire a couple of first ADs that I had worked with for that season because Roskin had moved on to another show. He was very busy, and that was his job generally. So I was you had to be there all the time. So you could shoot your episodes, and then what you end up doing is cleaning up other people. You're shooting insert units for other guys, or shooting scenes that they didn't get to, or you pick up establishing shots. So you're shooting pieces of other episodes, and you're checking in on people's schedules. So you go to all the meetings, which you don't ordinarily go to. You're part of the planning. You know, most of television is made in prep anyway. If you prep well, you will shoot well.
It seems like an essential function that's needed to have a good to have a good flowing.
Yeah, yeah. It changed and if you have a nice relationship with both the cast and the crew, it helps because that's where people bring their problems to you and bring their issues to you. And I don't have enough money for this, or this week this budget's over, and we have So you find ways to solve problems. It's a great job actually, and it was in
Um,
Portland. This is when Portland was the greatest town in the world. It's not, unfortunately, anymore.
it's still a pretty great town, but I understand what you're saying. Just as a sidebar, you've also done some teaching, some filmmaking teaching. You want to just touch on that for just a sec, or?
When I was at when Thunderbirds died, as I said, I went back to Maine. I was picked up to teach directing at the Rockport Filmmaking Institute, which started as a Steadicam place.
Yeah.
And then at our local Waterfall Arts, which was in our little town, I did some teaching. But and I mentor students from USC, film students. I do take care of one of them a year, and I try to help out the film department at Penn State, where I went. And a lot of people shadow me who are now directing.
You are known as a person that is a wonderful mentor.
Ah,
And mentoring young creatives is, I think, certainly, for me, and one of my missions in life is when I recognize talent on the part of other creatives to try and nurture that and support
yeah.
it, facilitate any way that I can. So I just admire that. I feel a bit of your dad's DNA coming through you,
Hmm.
on that. So I did want to touch on that. Anyway, long ago and far away, you were on a soap opera called Bare Essence.
Yeah. With the beautiful and talented Jeannie Francis.
You met a gorgeous woman on that set, Jeannie Francis.
She was too young for me then.
Uh,
So
They're
I flirted, but she was
never,
way
they're
too
never
young
too
until
young.
we went on to North and South. Then we fell in love.
Um, it's a fabled marriage. How many years?
We have 40 years in May together.
Congratulations.
Thank you.
I just think the world of Jeannie. Can you, if you don't mind, if I'm not getting too personal, just touch a little bit on your wonderful marriage and all the good that came out of it, because that's a special marriage.
We have two fabulous kids who are both launched. Our son just got married last year. Our daughter is engaged. She's going off to the Michener Center for Writers in University of Texas. JMO is a hydrologist in Montana with his own.
Wow.
He's got a nonprofit called the Salmon Fly Project, which all of you can contribute to. I should plug the pancan.org to you.
I have a couple of the projects that you're working on. We will talk about in a moment.
Okay.
Yeah.
Uh,
But that's your son in Montana. I mean, that's exciting.
yeah. And he just got married. His daughter's going off to medical school. Yeah, the kids are great. Jeannie's, as I said, she's still working on the show. We still laugh, and we have one of the great relationships and it gets better, just better and better. And she's been. It also helps to live and work with someone who knows what the work is like.
Speaking as a guy myself I've had a wonderful marriage, and my wife and I watch General Hospital religiously every day. It's destination viewing for us. We love that show.
And she's the mayor of Port Charles now.
Mayor of Port Charles. She's friends with Sonny. She is not afraid to, get down and dirty. And every time we see Jeannie, we're amazed. We're amazed by her and her own incredible character legacy,
Yeah.
her acting legacy, and the fact, that she's with you. It never ceases to amaze us. We're grateful for her, and we're grateful for what you've had with her as well. So
Yeah, so am I every day.
that's beautiful. Now you have a couple of important causes that you work
Oh,
with.
right. Before we go, I should plug that our pancan.org. Pancreatic cancer is the third
Yeah, which is
worst killer.
Purple Stride.
The Purple Stride is on April 26th in 60 communities around this great country.
Yeah.
You can go to pancan.com/Team Trek, and you'll find us. That's Armin Shimmerman, who played Quark, his wonderful wife Kitty, who's a 21-year pancreatic cancer survivor, who is the reason we're all together. John Billingsley, who played Dr. Phlox on Enterprise, and J.C. Cotto, who is Manny Cotto's brother, who just died 2 years ago. Manny used to run Enterprise. So the five of us are Team Trek.
For the fans that didn't catch that, that's pancan.org. If you go there, you can navigate from there to the Purple Stride Project. So that's
exactly, and that's on the 26th, and you can donate to our team or to whoever. Also, if you are a survivor or a family member who has had, this cancer is. When my brother died, there was a 4% survival rate. When Kitty was diagnosed, she's now a 21-year survivor. There was a 3% survival rate. There's now 13, which still sucks, but we're working. We need to find a marker. We need to find something that they can capture this illness early. So please help out. Pancan.org. Team Trek.
Everybody should go to that, and I hope this is going to air in time for that. But even if it doesn't, everybody should.
Oh, even if it doesn't matter. Just get in there and you can get help.
Yeah. You've also been involved for some time with the Hollywood Food Collective.
That's Billingsley's other project, HOFOCO, the Hollywood Food Coalition, which is an incredible outfit. I think part of the Trek Talks this year was a tour we did of it. It feeds the
homeless.
Less fortunate. It feeds the homeless all over LA, and it's been going on for years. And Billingsley and his wife Bonnie are just powerhouses. They're forces of nature, like Dean is.
It's such a problem in LA, but it's a really, really important cause. The Creation has been involved with it for several years too. And
yeah.
Before I let you go,
let me plug my son's salmon fly project.
Yeah,
that's saving the rivers. It's saving the bugs. No bugs, no fish, no rivers, no Montana, fresh waters. Salmonflyproject.org. Bye-bye.
Salmon Fly Project?
Yeah.
.org.
You got it.
Got it. Before we go, I want to just touch for a couple of minutes on Picard season 3.
Oh yeah.
Um,
Unlike any other.
the great Terry Matalas, who's in London right now filming Vision Quest for Marvel.
Yeah.
Um,
With Captain Shaw,
yes, with Tom
Todd.
Stashwick. I couldn't say enough great things about that season or about, I know so much of that is Terry's inspiration, but also it was the incredible love and energy that you and the cast put into making that one of the great, great sort of science fiction sagas, as well as bringing the incredible Next Generation saga, adventure arc, character arcs to a gorgeous conclusion. You must feel a huge sense of creative satisfaction with what that season brought, not only to you and the cast, but to all of us as decades-long fans of Next Generation.
Yeah, you said it very eloquently, and it was primarily because Terry knew the company so well, he knew the characters so well, and he and Akiva kind of split the division. He let Akiva do season 2, and he moved on to season 3, and he
Yeah.
prepared. And as Jeannie watched the whole season with me, and she said every character earned their entrance, which I thought was because it could have been what Patrick was afraid of was going to be a reunion show, but the characters came in and they solved the problem of Amanda Plummer. That was the gist of it.
Who was
So
awesome.
spectacular, amazing actor.
Spectacular, yeah. Yeah.
But it again, Terry met with us individually. I remember when Terry took Patrick and me to lunch and talked about how we would start the series and the idea of Picard and Riker getting back together, and he pitched this to Patrick, and I could see Patrick's mind because Patrick, as legendary, was saying, "I'm making Picard. It's called Picard. I'm sorry, none of you guys are going to be in it." Essentially, and then there was a little taste of Data. Then there was a little bit of Riker and Troy, and then by season 3, it seemed like a good idea, and it ended up being a great idea. It was satisfying for us, and very emotional for us to go back onto the bridge of the D.
Oh my God, the recreation of the bridge was unbelievable.
That was astounding. It was to the detail, the color, the angle of the art, the horseshoe, the chairs, the all the accoutrements, everything about it. It was
Yeah.
like Gladwell. It was like we had the 10,000 hour theory.
Yeah.
We had like the Beatles. We had been on that set for 10,000 hours at least. So to go back onto it created an emotional reaction. Ironically, it was the same reaction that Terry wanted us to have when the turbolift doors opened and the characters came out. So it was an easy lift as an actor to allow yourself to feel emotional about being back on this ship that changed our lives. So that was quite exceptional.
It's amazing. Riker and Troy had a huge portion of their character arc to resolve over the course of that season as well.
Well, I thought it was very smart of, again, the writers. The story was that Riker and Troy's son had died of some mysterious disease, and we had moved into Penthe, which was a planet that was supposed to save him, and it didn't.
Yeah.
And we didn't see them for a couple of years. And when Riker joins Picard, he's estranged from Troy. And as it turns out, by the end of the season, we find out it's because something about her Beta Z empathy had prevented Riker from grieving properly. And having done a little bit of research, I was a psychiatry major at one point, so I'm fascinated by all this. I guess parents who lose a child often struggle and get divorced, and that was the element of what was happening with Riker and Troy. That event had really strained their marriage in a way, and by the end, the character was able to say, "You didn't allow me to grieve properly," and you could feel that they were going to sort of live happily ever after. So it was, again, back to the writing. If it ain't on the page, Terry Matalas, our hero.
And to quote the title of the final Next Generation episode, all good things.
All good things, yeah.
How many actors not only create an iconic role, not only work in an iconic ensemble, but have the chance to go back and create such a satisfying conclusion to a legacy piece of intellectual property like Next Generation, and to complete it so beautifully and so satisfyingly.
It's been a blessing.
You know what? Just keep coming to our shows for the next 1,000 years.
I'm with you.
Keep regaling us with your wonderful stories of Hollywood and all the great experiences that you have had, and that I hope that we'll all share together in the years to come, Jonathan.
Thank you, Adam.
All right. Love you.
Nice job.
And
Live long,
thank you
prosper.
for everything. Live long and prosper.
Thank you, brother.
Bye-bye. Hi guys, it's Adam Malin, once again joined by my extremely esteemed colleague, Kit Bowen.
Hello. Our
And,
sci-fi nerdy here.
and Kit, I understand we're going to be doing a deep dive on Mission Impossible in the coming weeks.
We are.
With the release of the new film, so I
Yes.
look forward to hearing your commentary on that.
So excited.
But meanwhile, we're back to discuss the second half of season 2 of Andor, which are trilogies 3 and 4. And for those of you that are just joining us, we explained that the trilogies are based upon before the Battle of Yavin. In this case, for trilogy 3, 2 years before, and then trilogy 4, which would be 1 year before, leading into the events of Andor, which leads into, of course,
Leading the events of Rogue One, which then leads into New Hope.
yes, and of course, Princess Leia getting the plans getting those.
Right.
was-
That which we know ends up at the. Well, hopefully everyone here has seen Rogue One, because
Yeah.
we don't want to give that too much time
the
away,
sacrifice that they went through just to get the plans into the
but
princess's
it just
hands.
makes Andor the show that much sadder to me, because
Very poignant.
right. Anyway, so again, we were going to be spoiling the next two part 3 and 4 of the season 2 of Andor.
But you
so-
don't care because we have such great insights to offer you, and also honestly,
Well, watch it and then come back. Yeah.
we're doing this as much to kind of refresh ourselves and understand all the different plot points that got past us. It's like a good piece of artwork or music. You got to work at it
Yeah.
to really appreciate it.
Yep.
So we're opening up trilogy 3, which is BBY 2. We are finally at the Yavin Rebel base. So we're
Yes.
finally seeing that with the pyramids. It's
Yeah.
great to be back there.
Yeah, and they've got all the, they're gathering all the rebel people, the fish head guy, and everybody else.
The calamari aliens. Of course, there was the
They call
fantastic.
them fish.
I think I saw Admiral Akbar floating around somewhere.
Yeah, I think so.
But the rebel base is up and running, and Luthen tasks Will and Cass to go to Gorman to kill Deidre.
But before that, just to know that Bix is definitely in a better place, and she and Cass are like fully in love and living in this kind of sort of wonderful forest and things like that, and
Yeah.
they're in good shape.
Cass isn't even sure he really wants
Yeah,
to do
he
anything
kind of just
else.
wants to stay
Right.
with Bix.
But now he's got a blaster wound that's been bothering him.
Yes.
And Bix takes him to a healer. This healer channels the Force. Even if they're not a Jedi, they definitely channel the Force. And the healer senses that Cass has someplace he needs to be, and that he's a messenger with a destiny.
Yeah.
Which
Yeah,
we
and that's
all
the
know.
thing that's interesting, because Bix believes that Cass is meant for greatness. He's meant to be a leader, and he's like the anti-hero. He's like Han Solo, basically. He doesn't want to do this. He wants to just live his usual life, his normal life, but he can't.
He just wants to,
every time he thinks he's out, pull him back.
he'd like to just go back to Mina Rao and shuck corn with Bix, basically. But that is not to happen. So he and Will are back on Gorman, planning to assassinate Deidre, and they set up Cass as a sniper in a hotel across from the Imperial bunker.
Right.
Um,
And Will has formed sort of a romantic relation or a romantic bond with
Yeah.
one of the Gorman rebels. I can't remember her name, but he's
she's
okay.
from Mina Rao, and
Gotcha.
she comes with him.
Gotcha. Right.
And
Right.
actually does
That's my bad.
prove to be useful. But what's really interesting now is that this disparity between Deidre and Cyril, this amazing relationship
Yeah.
between those two, and the subterfuge. his faith in the Empire's rule of law, it's unable to fathom Dietrich's subterfuge.
Yeah.
And that he can't see that these outside agitators that he's been looking for is precisely the excuse that the Empire wants as a justification to declare martial law and strip mine Gorman for its Calcite.
Yeah.
So we get to Gorman, and it's kind of like, the second act of Les Mis. There's patriotic fervor, building to a boiling point on Gorman, increased military presence, Imperial police are loading into the town square, and this looming sense of martial law, as well as rumors of mysterious mining machines around the planet.
Right. So word is getting out that they're doing something to the planet, and so that just riles up the Gorman folk, the Gore, even more so.
And Cyril, who's sort of kind of like an Imperial person who's been with the rebels.
Right.
The Gorman elder statesman Caro Rolands assaults Cyril, and he says to him, screams at him. He says, "What kind of being are you, and what's in our ground?" And Cyril
just has no clue.
Shaken by this.
Yeah.
He seeks out Deidre. He wants to know what
the hell's going on.
And he starts to freak out, and he starts to choke her. Mm-hmm. And this is such a visceral, incredible scene.
Yeah.
Deidre is so torn because
she actually does love him.
I do feel like sick way. Yeah. And she's
but she has been told she cannot tell him.
Yeah.
What's going on? She's been told by Pargance, right? Is it Pargance? What's Anton Lesser's major?
Yeah, but
Partagas.
She loves him, and
she
so
really
even as he's choking her, she's not even really quite protesting. She's really oddly unafraid, and she begs him to just accept that it's for the best, what is to come, and that it will serve both of their purposes.
Yeah.
So, the engineered Imperial sniper killing of an Imperial policeman that Captain Cato foments, this nasty dude, Imperial Captain
everything
Cato.
is building in this major square area, right? I mean, we've got these chanters with the protesters, and
he's got a sniper that kills one of their own police guys.
Yeah.
And that sends the crowd into utter chaos, and so the whole thing is being triggered.
Gets into
And so Cato, the Imperial Captain Cato, sends in the stormtroopers. Whenever the stormtroopers come in, it's not a good situation.
And meanwhile, we also get a glimpse of some of the I guess the K series of droids where they're like giant iron giants kind of thing. We get a little glimpse.
We had no idea how terrifying those things actually were.
They actually. They're actually going to be brought in here at some point.
Yeah, we didn't realize that they're monsters.
Yeah.
Anyway, Cass is, during this chaos, Cass is trying to kill Deidre, and he can't get a good aim on her.
No. And he sees things developing very quickly around him.
And so Cass kind of goes down into the square, and in the midst of this chaos, Cyril finally sees him. This rebel ghost that he's been pursuing for years.
Yes.
He can't believe it. It's finally.
And Andor doesn't have any clue who he is.
He doesn't know who he is. So Cyril attacks him savagely, and here we got another second person being choked. And they have a horrible fight, and during the scuffle, he gets this gun and he aims it at Cass, and Cass says to him, "Who are you?"
Yeah, who are you?
He doesn't know that Cyril and Deidre have obsessed over him.
And Luthen, yeah.
And Luthen, and during this, the moment that he hesitates, Caro shoots him in the head, and
so basically what happened is that Cyril and Deidre have this encounter, and he's like, "What's going on?" And she's like, "It doesn't matter. We're going to be safe. Just stay, and we'll go off, and we'll be we'll be on our own." And he's like, "No, I'm going back down." So then she knows that he's going to get killed. I mean, so the emotion that runs over her face, and then
he just becomes untethered.
Yeah,
it's tragic.
He just goes right down into the middle of it. So.
He is almost a victim. Almost. He's not a good.
He's a patsy, is what he is.
He's not a good man, but I mean, really, he's a victim of the Empire. Partagas, of Deidre. It's bad. Anyway, a radio message goes out to the galaxy. we are under siege, we are being slaughtered, the imperial murder of Gorman has begun. And this actually gets into the Senate, and they hear that in the Senate. And as you alluded to, those KX robot, the droids, come out, and then they start,
killing people
plowing through the crowd. I mean, those things they're monsters.
Just throwing
and
people.
Then there's one KX unit that they managed to disable and knock out, who will, of course, end up becoming
our favorite.
Our favorite KX in the future will eventually become Cass's companion.
Voiced by Alan Tudyk.
The great Alan Tudyk. So that's fun to see. A fun anecdote from this is that Deidre is freaking out about the whole thing, and she's with Partagas, and he very matter-of-factly says, you seem animated. Our struggles with Gorman are well documented at this point, just very matter-of-factly.
So anyway, so that's kind of how Trilogy 3 ends, with this horrible, horrible slaughter of all these people.
But let's just talk a little bit about what's going on in the Senate on Coruscant, because this Gorman Senator Dassi Iran is removed from the Senate floor as he begins, screaming about what's going on Gorman. And Mon Mothma realizes that the speech that she was born to make, the time has finally arrived. And so she gets with Bail Organa, and she has to have an exit plan to get out of there. And Bail says that he's got his team, which is going to extricate her at the end of that.
Yeah.
But Luthen manages to get a message to her to tell her that Bail's team is compromised.
Right.
You can't escape.
And we do find out that that's correct.
Oh, they'll kill you.
Yeah.
They'll kill you. I have somebody who will say to you, what's the expression that he says? I have friends.
Oh
in many places.
I have friends in many. Yeah, I have friends everywhere. I have friends
everywhere.
That's the code word to know that you're safe. So guess who he brings in? Oh, Cassian Andor. Yeah, so that's
of course. But she is going to. She gets Bail to use a Senate protocol to clear the floor so that she can get up and denounce Palpatine and hopefully make this safe getaway. But in the midst of all this, as she knows that she's going to be leaving, she asks Bail if he wants to come with her, and Bail says he decides that he's going to stay. And Mon discovers that her own assistant, Erskine, had been working for Luthen for years, which is a surprise and a revelation for her.
Yeah, and she's not happy about that either. So,
all
right.
So Mon's security team is compromised, so it is going to fall upon Cassian to get around.
Yeah. So now we're in the fourth one, right?
Well, no. During this crazy stuff, I just thought I'd read her speech because it's kind of inspiring, and it's such a pivotal point in Star Wars history. So basically, she says that when truth leaves us, when we let it slip away, when it's ripped from our hands, we become vulnerable to the appetite of whatever monster screams the loudest. What happened yesterday on Gorman was unprovoked genocide. Yes, genocide. And that truth has been exiled from this chamber, and the monster screaming the loudest, the monster we've helped create, the monster that will come for us all soon enough is Emperor Palpatine. So finally,
and they're all like, no, you traitor, betrayer. And they're all like, I love the scene too, because it's like all these little pods that they're all standing. And then if they want to speak, the pod comes out in the middle of this giant sphere kind of thing or whatever.
I love that.
I know, it's very cool.
And the Empire is trying to cut off that transmission.
Yep. Oh, yeah.
But it's too
trying
late.
Desperately.
It gets out to the galaxy, and that is really the spark that ignites the rebellion.
Really, yeah.
So
welcome to the rebellion.
Welcome to the rebellion. And the Senate building goes into lockdown, and Cass and Mon go through this harrowing process of escaping the planet, but they do decide they are able to escape.
Yeah. And
around this time, Bix decides that
because Cass is basically saying, "Okay, so I rescued this senator. I'm done.
I'm done. Yeah.
This is it. I'm done." And she's like, she understands and she wants to be with him and she loves him dearly, but she also knows that he's very, very important to what's going to be happening moving forward. And so she leaves him this very sad, very, poignant video saying, I have to leave you and I can't tell you where I'm going. I'll go someplace safe, but I have to leave you because you need to continue doing this. And I know that if I stay, you won't. You'll want to be with me, and you can't pick me over
That's right. And he
The
gets this
rebellion.
video
It's
and he
so
freaks
sad.
out, so he runs to the Yavin spaceport, but she's already gone.
She's gone.
And so that's pretty much the end of the third trilogy, but there's just the postscript,
Yeah.
kind of the coda, in which K2SO is reactivated.
He's like,
And
why are you pointing a gun at me?
that's right. It's really great. And that ends the third trilogy, which
Yeah.
brings us finally to the
Dun,
final
dun, dun.
climax of Andor, which is
Last 3 episodes.
Trilogy 4, BBY1.
10 through 12.
And it begins with the very sad but expected countdown to Luthen's death,
Yes.
as well as reveals Clea's backstory,
Yeah.
which is fascinating.
Very. She's a tough cookie, man. Even as a little girl, she was a tough cookie.
But there's also a standoff between Luthen and Lonnie, his mole, his Imperial mole. Lonnie is trying to find a way to salvage his life, his family, while still helping the rebellion. And now he reveals the truth, the hidden truth, that Palpatine's energy program is actually the Death Star, as well as the name of the designer, Galen Erso,
Yep.
whom we will discover in Andor, is the great Mads Mikkelsen, whom we adore.
And father of Felicity Jones, whose name I couldn't remember before,
Yes.
who plays his daughter. Yes.
The character
Yes.
that she portrays,
Yes.
yes. But now, since Lonnie, wants to be out, and he's given Luthen the big secret that Luthen wants, he's outlived his usefulness, and Luthen just assassinates him.
Yep.
And it's just
Right
like,
then and there. But we don't. It's funny because we never see Luthen actually do any of the various things that he does. It's just you kind of click to him. You see the character on the bench and he's kind of slumped over. And you're like,
it's just,
"Whoa."
really, Luthen, has it really come to that? It's just, he's
Well, he's covering his tracks. I mean, I get it, but it's not nice.
well, I mean, you're an apologist for Luthen now. At this point, he's used up all of his good karma.
Yes,
Yeah,
yes,
so-
yes. And finally,
The confrontation we've been waiting for, Deidre catches up to Luthen at his galley.
and Luthen knows exactly what the situation is.
Yeah, they'll play a little bit of
play a
cat and
little
mouse.
bit, yeah.
But he's got a knife, and rather than letting himself be taken, he stabs himself.
Yeah.
And we think he's going to die, which is a huge failure for Deidre. She has identified him correctly as the axis of the rebellion. But we kind of delve into Clea's backstory, and we learn more about Luthen's roots as well, which is kind of remarkable.
Yeah.
He was a former Imperial military sergeant. She was the orphan of a war zone, and he adopts her, and she becomes his protege. And it's so sad that her final mission for her father is to sneak into this Imperial high security medical unit and pull the plug on
Yeah.
him
Because she knows that they're just going to torture him or try to keep him alive.
and extract
or
the
whatever.
information.
Yeah. So
Yeah.
it's not going to work
Very,
out.
very sad.
It is sad.
But having allowed Luthen to kill himself, Deidre has expended her currency with the Empire, and she gets jailed. And then it's her big boss Krennic with her, admonishing her, and the first time in the entire series that the words Death Star
Yep.
are actually mentioned. And he's doing this thing to her. Will you forgive me if I do this to you?
Yeah, go ahead.
He's doing this thing to her, drilling his index finger on the top of her head.
Yeah. She's like,
Trouble
trouble now.
It's terrible. And he enlists a new ISB point person, Hirt, to plug this Death Star leak, which
Right.
could be, as we know, catastrophic to their program. And then there's a great scene with Partagas and Krennic, in which they're sort of confiding in
Yes.
each other that they're both on very tenuous ground
Which
and
we know part of gas is.
for Partagas's time.
Yeah, anyway, so,
number.
yeah.
Yeah.
So, Clea, she is now, very, very, very resourceful. I think as a tech person. Anyway,
She's
I think she's
hiding.
very. She's hiding in
Yeah.
the old place that Cassian and Bix
safe
used to
house,
live
right?
in. Yeah,
Yeah.
Coruscant.
Yeah, Coruscant. Yeah.
Coruscant.
Yeah.
And she remembers that there is this antiquated radio system that's stuck in the wall. So she gets it out, she plugs it in, she figures it out. So she's sending sort of a Morse code,
Yeah.
basically,
Yeah.
out to the rebels to let them know that she's actually there. They think it's Luthen. I mean, obviously it's Luthen and Clea together, but they
Yeah.
think it's Luthen. So she's doing this transmission, and back on Yavin, right? Yavin?
Yeah.
Cassian and everyone, they get the signal, so the Cassian's like, we gotta go save Luthen,
Although the
basically.
Empire picks up the signal too.
Yes, they do.
Right.
Well, eventually they do. Yes.
Yeah.
So Cassian once again goes, I'm going, you know. They're like, no, wait, you can't go. And he's like, I don't care, I'm going. And he takes off, and but now he's got Kay with him. And who's the other guy that's with him? The other guy? I don't even remember his name. It was just another friend of theirs, whatever. Now we get this really great little scene actually before all this is Cass and this other guy are playing some kind of a poker game or whatever with Kay, and they're just having a time with him and, like, you know, ribbing him. So you can see now this is the character that we really loved from Rogue One, and he's very funny. So they all end up going to Coruscant to rescue who they think is Luthen.
And Cassian has an exchange with Bail Organa, and they're talking about Luthen. And, you know, Mon and Cass kind of appreciate the good and the bad of Luthen, but Bail just kind of calls out his paranoia, his secrecy, his inability to collaborate.
Right. So they get to Coruscant, and they do end up rescuing Clayla, and they find out Luthen's been killed. But it's a very another really tense scene where the stormtroopers are coming at him, and, you know, there's kind of no way to escape. And then all of a sudden, you see Kay coming through, vroom, 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 and just throwing
guys off the bridge,
throwing stormtroopers left and right. And he's like, I've cleared the path, he says. So then they take off with Clay back to Yavin.
And then during this period, we see a final scene with Leo Partagas, and one more amazing performance from Anton Lesser.
He's obviously failed in his mission.
He tenders his resignation to Supervisor Legret, knowing that they're just going to take him away and probably execute him.
Yeah.
And then, but commenting that it just keeps spreading, doesn't it? Which is with regards to fascism, the toxicity of Palpatine. Fascism. And he asks for a moment to collect my thoughts.
Right.
And of course, the guy commits suicide. And it's the end for one of the most, I think, remarkable characters, maybe underappreciated.
Yeah.
But I just thought that Partagas was one of the great characters from Andor. So
absolutely.
Sorry to see him going.
I love this last montage. So
there's a final montage on the show.
Cassian is tasked to go do basically he's tasked to go do one more mission before, and this is the mission that kind of starts Rogue One, right? I think so.
Yeah.
So he's tasked again to leave Yavin with Kay, as you know, they're now pilot and co-pilot, to go on this mission. But there's this really beautiful montage of all the characters that we've now grown to like or not like or whatever.
Will and Drina are having a moment of kind of domestic comfort.
Yeah.
And as mentioned, Mon Mothma and Vel, they're planning for the next phase of the revolution. We see Saw Gerrera looking out to his destiny. We know he's
not going to end well.
End well. And then we see Orson Krennic staring out of a ship portal at the Death Star.
Yep.
And it's very intense. And then poor Deidre ends up on Narkina 5, which is where Cass was.
Yep.
It's ironic she'll be working on the Death Star parts just as Cass and Andy Serkis were in season 1. So that's a kind of a great end to Deidre.
Yeah. And then finally,
this idyllic return to Mina
so the
Rao.
coda to everything. It was like, where's Bix? What's Bix been doing, right? You know, there is we didn't mention the one character that I actually really liked too, who was kind of pivotal in the first season. Her name is Vel, played by Faye Marzay.
Yes, Vel. Yeah.
So she's still involved in the whole rebellion as well, and you know, she has a conversation with Cass before he goes off to say, you know, you should get in touch with Bix, and he's like, I'm not gonna, because she's safe right now, and I just don't want to.
But while Cass is going off to his uncertain destiny, which we know will end up badly, Bix is holding Cass's baby on Mina Rao, safe and kind of a
wistful
and away from the events that are going to be unfolding. And we do see B2EMO, the great stuttering droid, kind of the symbol of innocence, playing.
And he's from the first season too. If you guys remember, he was the droid that Cassian's mother was for her. So.
And so it's a wistful, pastoral, and yet ominous ending to a remarkable series. Now, before we let this go, I just want to ask you, a few of your favorites on the show. I have
Right.
some of my favorites too. So, okay, your favorite ship from the show.
Well, I don't really have one, I guess, because I don't really know all the names of the ships. But
Oh, yeah.
it's not like the Millennium Falcon. You can always remember that one. But yeah,
Uh,
I would agree with you. You have Death Star.
I would say it's
Yeah.
the Death Star
Yeah.
for sure.
Yeah, yeah.
I love
It's
the Death Star.
ominous, horrible thing that it is.
Oh, it's
yeah.
it's a thing of beauty. Favorite droid?
Well, for me, it's K for sure.
K2MO, K2SO rather.
yes, yes.
K2SO. But again, honorable mention to B2EMO, who I like a lot. Favorite bad guy from the show?
Well, I think I would go with Pargats because Partagatz because he is. I love the actor too and whatnot.
Yeah, Anton Lesser.
He's also, Deidre is just a little too severe for me, but I understand where she was coming from. But Pargats he's playing the game as best he possibly can, but I don't think he truly believes in everything that the Empire's doing. He's just doing it to preserve himself,
He's nuanced.
which is ultimately his demise because he fails.
Well, and I agree, he's fantastic. But I do have to give notes for Deidre
Okay.
because I just think that she's amazing, and also Krennic, whom I think the
Yeah.
great Ben Mendelsohn.
Yeah.
I think all.
But he had his moment in Rogue One. Is my feeling.
Well, I mean, these are three epic bad guys to have on a TV show.
Yeah.
It's pretty fantastic.
Yeah.
And there were several great writers on the show.
Right.
Of course, there's Tony and his brother Dan Gilroy.
And then Tom Bissell wrote like the pretty much the last trilogy part of it.
Yeah,
the
yeah,
BB-1,
fantastic.
BB-1.
Now, there are a lot of alien worlds on Andor. Do you have a favorite world?
I think Yavin.
You like Yavin?
Yeah, I like Yavin.
Yavin is really, really cool. And I mean,
It's just pretty.
I've been to some places in Mexico that kind of look like that.
Exactly.
Like
I'm sure they
Tulum
probably
or,
filmed there.
Chichen Itza.
It's like Andor.
My favorite world, I think, is really Coruscant. Just something about Coruscant fascinates me. The Senate,
Yeah.
of course, they filmed that in the footages from Valencia, Spain.
Okay.
There's those science buildings that Santiago Calatrava, this amazing architect, built, and that is they used that
Yeah.
as the basis of the Senate grounds. That whole kind of esplanade and all that. That's an amazing scene. So I think Coruscant is great.
Yeah.
Now, we've watched a lot of different Star Wars TV
We sure
series, but I would say that Andor, for me, is the best, my favorite Star Wars TV series.
Absolutely. 100%.
And
All
I
the
love
other ones are.
Mandalorian.
Yeah, Mandalorian is good.
Yeah.
I will give you props for Mandalorian. But all the rest of them just sort of paled in comparison.
Yeah.
I'll even go further because, like I said at the beginning, I'm actually throwing in the movies here as well as far as
Yeah.
writing. is
Rogue
concerned.
One is right up there.
Well, I think it's like Andor, and then Rogue One, and then Empire Strikes Back. I mean, I think that for me is how it works because Empire Strikes Back up to all of this was my favorite of all the Star Wars movies. I mean, it was written by Lawrence Kasdan. But I just want to say before we go, really one thing. We were talking about this earlier, and I found it interesting that they never even mentioned Darth Vader. So they'll mention the Death Star, they mention all of that, but they never mention Vader. I wouldn't want to see Vader, but I would think Krennic might would have, somewhere along the line they mentioned Vader, like, well, Vader's not going to like that, or something like that. What do you think?
I think it's very peculiar, but they did mention his cousin Shlomo Vader on several occasions, so that has to stand in for Darth
Lord
Vader.
Shlomo Vader. Lord Shlomo Vader, yeah.
Listen, in conclusion, Kit, we have been talking about this series for months now. It was great to finally see it come to fruition.
It took a long time for season 2, but it was well worth the wait.
Science fiction television at its best. And this is what drives us and what makes us so excited, so passionate and enthusiastic that the future of television and, filmed entertainment is bright indeed when you can have creators like Tony Gilroy and his team create an amazing show like Andor.
Absolutely. So definitely check it out.
Yeah.
And let us know what you thought in the comments, too.
And any mistakes that we made, please, because it's a lot of continuity to coverage.
I think you did a good job.
We apologize in advance, but you can tell we're just as excited about this show as we think you either already are or will be.
Yeah.
So, again, Kit, it was fabulous. Thank you very much, my dear, as always. And thanks, you guys. We'll see you again.
All right, bye.
Fantastic show. Beautiful.
Slow clap. It's just the best. Yeah,
Wonderful.
It was all good stuff.
Kit, we've got some shows coming up, right?
Sure do. We've got a double weekend coming up, June 6th through 8th. First, we've got a supernatural convention in Oklahoma City. We haven't been there in a while, so if you're a supernatural fan and are nearby, come check out the convention there. And then June 7th and 8th, we're going to be in New Jersey at Whippany Marriott for the Vampire Diaries convention, which also has some extra special guests from True Blood as well. So if you're in the area, definitely check it out.
Awesome. Wow. That's it, everybody. So we hope you enjoyed this week's episode of the Creation Entertainment Podcast. Please remember to like this video, subscribe to the channel, hit the bell icon for notifications. If you're listening in, give us a 5-star rating and a nice review. We'd really appreciate that. And we will see you next week. Remember to go to creationent.com for all show tickets and information. Bye.
Hey, everyone.